Okay, everyone, take two of this entire stream. I don't know what was going on with the audio earlier. For some reason, my stream thing was saying there's a weird audio connection. But right now, it looks like everything is fine. So let's do, like I said, a take two of this. So what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to TTP Sports. And basically, it's just been a weird couple of days since the Eagles' victory against the Chicago Bears this past Sunday. It's basically everything leading up to today and everything that happened yesterday during the late afternoon. You're getting all the news about the Jalen Hurts injury and everything like that. Everyone's basically just instant reaction and summing it up to today, basically. And that's what we're really going to be talking about here today. And overall, when you hear the news about Jalen Hurts' sprained shoulder, honestly, when you're watching the game on Sunday against Chicago, Jalen Hurts is running all over the place. He's getting rocked. And then you see that one play where he lands on his right shoulder. You see the replay of him getting up and grimacing a little bit. And you're thinking to yourself, please don't be injured. One, how are you not injured on that play? And then you see him do everything that he did in the fourth quarter. You're thinking to yourself, okay, maybe it's not, maybe he just got banged up a little bit and he was able to just do his normal thing. But then you find out yesterday that he actually did get hurt. It's not concerning whatsoever. It definitely isn't at all. But it's definitely something to look at going forward. But right now, it's just sprained shoulder. Most likely going to be a week-to-week thing, I would assume. Even though he's questionable for Saturday, we heard from the press conference from Nick Sirianni, from, even Jalen Hurts talk today. So they're not really going to give you that much information because they never do. That's just, the way with sports these days. They really don't give you any type of information whatsoever. And with Nick Sirianni and everything like that, it's just, I don't know. It's just that, saying that he's questionable, saying that there is a possible situation to where he can go on Saturday. So really, it's basically a wait and see process right now. But overall, with this, injury to Jalen Hurts, I don't think it's anything to be concerned about. But I would say, in the bit of the precautionary side, I would rest him on Saturday. I would just give him all the rest as possible because at this point, you have a 99.9% chance to win the NFC, get the first seed, and get that bye week going into the playoffs. Don't think it's that important that Jalen Hurts plays. And I kind of do think that this Saturday's game going into Dallas, it kind of means a little bit less just because Dallas lost this past Sunday to the Jacksonville Jaguars when Dak Prescott threw that game-winning pick six and allowed Jacksonville to finish the comeback in overtime. I kind of think this game means a little less because if Dallas won on Sunday and they clinched their playoff spot, technically you would be still in a race for the NFC. Now that Dallas has yet to clinch a postseason spot, this game kind of doesn't mean much for the Eagles. So I think you can get away with putting a guy like a Gardner-Minshew as the starting quarterback behind center. And even though you put Gardner-Minshew there, this team is still stacked regardless. You still have all your weapons on offense. Dallas Goedert is coming back. You still have A.J. Brown. You still have Devontae Smith. You still have this dynamic offensive line. You have Miles Sanders back there. You have all those weapons on offense. And then you even go to the defensive side. Everything there. You're only missing Jalen Hurts. And now it's not to say that, Jalen Hurts go into the Micah Parsons comments, it's the system and everything like that. I'm not worried at all. And especially if you look at Jalen Hurts' stats in the fourth quarter in Chicago against the Bears. This is from Dave Zangaro. This was posted yesterday, basically, when all the injury news happened. So Jalen Hurts in the fourth quarter against the Bears on a sprained shoulder. He threw 6 of 9 with 102 yards, a long of 68, which was that dime to A.J. Brown, which went all the way down the field, got down to the goal line. Was an amazing pass, and Jalen Hurts made some nice passes basically throughout the day. That was his nicest with a sprained shoulder. He had 6 rushing attempts, he had 9 yards on those, and he had 1 touchdown. And he also had that quarterback sneak, I believe, for the 2-point conversion as well. So, yeah, I don't think that's anything major to think about there when he was able to do all that stuff. Maybe could you put adrenaline and everything like that into the conversation? Yeah, definitely. I think all players, when they have an injury at first, they experience that a little bit of adrenaline rush. But still, that he was able to do that with a sprained shoulder, don't think that's a major cause for concern. I would still, go in the line of precautionary and, I'm going to not play him on Saturday. I would think that's probably the right way to go. Even though I wouldn't be shocked if he does play on Saturday, I would prefer that everything goes the way that Gardner Minshew gets to start this Saturday against Dallas. Because honestly, you think about it, what if Gardner Minshew goes down there, plays in Dallas, fully stacked, when they're still trying to clinch a playoff spot, the Cowboys, that is, and Minshew goes down there and he provides Dallas a huge loss, and the Eagles run away with a victory on Christmas Eve. That would be very funny. That would be very entertaining. Even though the game is going to be entertaining regardless, it kind of doesn't mean anything for the Eagles just because of what Dallas did this past Sunday, them losing to Jacksonville. This game really doesn't mean anything for us. So maybe putting Gardner Minshew in there adds a little bit of spice to it. Maybe that adds a little bit more of impact. So who knows what could happen at that point. Like I said, I prefer Gardner Minshew playing on Saturday because I think Jalen Hurts at this point, give him all the rest as possible. He's banged up, especially, with the dual threat type of quarterback that he is, playing in this rough league. There's a lot of games, the game against the Packers where he ran for over 300 yards, where he's doing all these read options, and he's choosing where to go, when the run, when the pass, basically. And I know a lot of people are blaming Nick Sirianni and Shane Steichen for this. It's their fault that Jalen Hurts got hurt. Well, it's a right and a wrong. Yes, it's stupid that they didn't use Miles Sanders as much against Chicago, and they were forcing all these deep passes, forcing Jalen Hurts to run a lot. But then you got to think, Jalen Hurts, he has the say during those option plays, whether he wants to try to run the ball where he sees a different line there, or if he sees a pass that's open. That's basically his choice, the decision-making process in that moment. So it just happened to be that on a lot of those options, he chose to run the ball himself. So we got to look at it from that aspect. I think it's kind of harsh to blame Nick Sirianni and Shane Steichen for causing Jalen Hurts to be injured. You could say that it's stupid that they didn't use Miles Sanders as much. I don't think it's their fault that he got injured. You're playing in the NFL where guys are trying to rock you every single second on the defensive side. So, and especially with the way Jalen Hurts plays, he's running consistently every week. He's constantly getting hit hard. Maybe it was, he was going to get banged up a little bit, especially going towards the end of the year. So I would say at this point, it's probably the best case scenario. I would say, let him rest. Let him rest the next few weeks because, like I said, you had a 99.9% chance most likely that you're going to clinch the NFC. You're going to get that bye week. You're going to get home field advantage at Lincoln Financial Field throughout the playoffs until the Super Bowl. That's what's most likely going to happen. And you're most like, especially after the Dallas game, playing two teams that are below or that are not as good as you, especially a New Orleans Saints team. And in those next 2 weeks, Nick Sirianni, he's not going to play majority of the starters. Maybe you'll get some starters early in the game against the Saints just because that game does have draft pick, I guess, type of consequences there, because with, your pick or the Saints pick belonging to you, if you win that game, it makes your draft capital a little bit better there. So maybe you get a little bit of the starters playing to start against the Saints, get yourself up to a good lead, and then you bring out the starters, bring in the backups and everything like that, and then most likely against the Giants the final day of the season. I don't think you're going to be starting anyone against the New York Giants. Then you get the bye week, get your little bit of rest there. Maybe throughout those entire weeks where some guys are getting rest, maybe do a little bit of a training camp type of thing to get guys going again, because there's going to be a lot of weeks off for these guys. But still, a lot of people are saying if you give Jalen Hurts off this week and he doesn't play against the Saints, the Giants, then he gets the bye week, he's going to be rusty. He's not going to be familiar with the offense again. I don't think Jalen Hurts playing this week and then getting 3 weeks off, I don't think one more extra week is going to make much of a difference in terms of everything. I think he's going to be just fine. He's going to be practicing. He's going to be doing everything possible there. So I'm not concerned the slightest bit on that scenario. I think people are a little bit of overreactive to that. Right now, I would let Gardner Minshew play on Saturday. I think that's the most important thing. Jalen Hurts, given the rest. And I think right now people are thinking that, Jalen Hurts is going to play on Saturday. It's probably in regards to what Nick Sirianni said in his press conference, just because he wouldn't put it past Jalen Hurts just because of the way he, holds himself, the way he prepares, the way and everything like that, the way his body is. So he wouldn't be shocked if Jalen did play on Saturday. kind of feel like people are trying to think that, oh, Jalen Hurts is going to play on Saturday. Like I said, I won't be shocked if he does play, but I prefer him to not play because I just don't want to run the risk of him getting hurt even more. That's the bottom line there. I would rather him rest up. I'd rather him be prepared for the playoffs. And you're most likely going to be locking up this top seed in the NFC in these next few games. And it probably does even help, too, if, say, the Vikings lose one of their next games. That definitely helps your case more. And like I said, Dallas losing this past Sunday it makes this game mean a little bit less just because they're not in a playoff spot right now. They need to win this Saturday to clinch a playoff spot. And hey, if Gardner Minshew goes down there and wins the game, the Dallas is still not in a playoff spot. So it's kind of a win-win scenario right there. But like I said, I think Jalen Hurts, the most important thing, he gets rest. I think that's what needs to happen at this point. I think that's where we stand. I think that's probably the most obvious thing. I think a lot of people, even though there's some of those individuals that think he's going to be playing and everything like that, I think right now everyone says that this game is not that important on Saturday. Let Jalen Hurts get his rest. You're most likely going to be clinching this NFC's position, the top seed in the NFC. You're going to get that bye week. You're going to get home field advantage. Let Jalen Hurts get as much rest as possible. I think that's the most important thing to stand off there. So before we do everything else here and get towards the end of this stream, we do have a voicemail here from Sean Fitzpatrick talking about everything like that. And you guys can also leave voicemails at 215-839-9885. Your thoughts and opinions on everything like that if you want to get your thoughts on the stream. So let's hear what Sean has to say about this Jalen Hurts injury.
You know, I've heard a lot about the Hurts injury, and here's the way I look at it. I mean, number one, I think this was inevitable. I mean, when you watch your quarterback, not just Sunday, but seemingly every week, taking shots from 280 to 300-pound linemen, eventually he was going to get planted and get hurt. Now, that said, the injury is a sprain. I mean, it doesn't sound like it's anything, significant. It's just let's sit him for precautionary reasons. But I don't have the sky is falling mentality that a lot of the fans do. I mean, Gardner Minshew is a guy who has come in, played games as a starter, won games as a starter. He's been in the system here for a year. I mean, he reminds me of the quarterback at Washington, Taylor Heineke. He's a high-energy guy. You like playing for him. You hate him if you're on the other side. But I think he can move this team, and I think he can put points up on the Cowboys. I mean, in closing, it's never a bad idea, as 2017 showed you, to give your backup quarterback some reps because you never know when you're going to need him, and hopefully they won't need him in the playoffs, but it's always a possibility.
Yeah, you hit it right on the nose there, Sean. You definitely did.
I've heard a lot.
My fault there. Didn't mean to play it again. But yeah, you hit it right on the nose. Basically, it could have been inevitable at this point that Jalen got hurt because of what he's going up against, especially when he runs every single week and he's running into all these different linemen and they're trying to hit him, they're trying to knock him down, they're trying to rock him. It was probably inevitable at this point that he was going to get hurt. And especially for Gardner Minshew, he's definitely a guy that can go in there and play a game and get you a win if needed. He did the same thing last year against the Jets, even though the Jets, Dallas Cowboys are two completely different tiers of teams. In regards to last year's Eagles team to this year's Eagles team, he still basically did that same thing last year when Hurts got injured for a game. He missed a week. Gardner Minshew came in. He got a win, a game where he needed the win, and that's basically what happened in that scenario. Now he needs to do the same thing again. And I have full faith in Gardner Minshew to do that job. And I think, like I said, the most important thing right now is let Jalen get some rest. Let him get some rest. That's the most important detail there. Don't want to, run this injury even further than it needs to be. I don't think it's that concerning right now, especially what he did in that fourth quarter against Chicago. But I'd rather stay on the side of cautionary than just being, he's going to be fine, let him play on Saturday, and then never know he's going to get rocked, and then that sprained shoulder turns into something else. I know there was a bunch of reports even before the injury news came out that no one knew what the injury was. There was a collarbone situation until, there's a little bit of mishaps. It was the non-throwing shoulder. Then it turned out that was a mistake. It was his throwing shoulder. So there was a bunch of, confused and everything like there. People were saying, oh God, the season's over. Jalen's injured and everything like that. But there's no room to panic. There's no need to panic. And I think right now, the day after that announcement, I think a lot of people are being more level-headed at this point. So, most important thing, let Jalen Hurts get some rest. You move on to Saturday. Gardner Minshew, most likely, I would say at the lock at this point that he is going to start this Saturday. And you move on from there. Let Jalen get the rest that he needs. You move on. You eventually clinch that top seed in the NFC. You rest everyone for the following weeks against the Saints and the Giants. Then you move on to the postseason. That's where we stand at this point. So that's where we're going to leave it off today, everyone. Do not forget to leave your comments in the comment section down below. I'd like to see those as always. Do not forget to drop a like on the video. Do not forget to check out the painted lines and everything in the description down below. BrodesMedia as well. I recommend all of that. Same thing with hitting that subscribe button. I truly appreciate that if you would do it. Also, use the code TTPSPORTS, $20 off your first purchase at SeatGeek. Use it for anything you can think of. It's a great deal. Do not pass that up. Thank you, everyone, for joining today, and I will see you next.